Meeting to order. I have 5:03. Welcome everybody to the Orangeville Police Services Board public session. It is March 21st. So at this point in time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and my first rule of business is to introduce to everybody the Acting Staff Sergeant James Shea. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate you doing that. And there, I promised easy questions, but I lied. So you're going to be roasted, and no, it'll be all good. It'll all be good. We appreciate your time here today, so thank you for that. Any disclosures of direct or indirect pecuniary interest? No, seeing none. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda for today, please? Ken and Lisa, Mayor Post, all in favor? Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So I'd like to start off the public session. We were in closed session prior to this, and this is our open session public meeting portion. And this brings us to item 6, which is some questions that were brought up by a resident, Mr. Noel Ramsey, and Inspector Ward was going to speak to this matter, wondering is the best way to review board members. Maybe I'll just ask for suggestions. Would we simply go through each question, do you think, or shall we bring for discussion? How do you think is best to handle it? You want me to read these questions? Seem like too much to do?
I think the Mr. Ramsey's received written answers, so perhaps paraphrase the question and answer, and just for public reporting purposes.
Okay. Sure. So overall, I think there was just some issues that Mr. Ramsey had with parking and town bylaw enforcement, and basically what the OPP was going to do overall in terms of their dealing with that with each of the residents. Also, he was concerned about excessive speeding between Highway 10 between Orangeville and Caledon, and was wondering what the thoughts were on that. And Inspector Ward has given responses to each of these things in email format. I don't know, Acting Staff Sergeant Shea, would you like to speak to any of these things? Have you got them highlighted in front of you? Oh, excellent. Okay, so why don't we do that? Yeah, if you just press the button there. Maybe if you just give a brief interlude to each of them, and we can go from there.
Certainly, yes, I can definitely do that here. So the first on the list here is number 1 about local detachment for reporting ongoing issues in the neighborhood. Ideally, police can better respond to an incident at the time, as opposed to conducting follow-up later. So ideally, the citizens should be calling us when something is happening, even if they're not sure maybe what they're observing, or they're not sure if, they really should be calling. That is something that we can determine, right? When we attend the scene and figure out, is this person going through cars, or are they putting stickers on people's windows or whatever for some reason, right? So ideally at the time is the best, but I understand that there could be times in which there's an ongoing issue, right? And, and it is no problem with advising us, the OPP, that there is an ongoing issue. You can call into our office and, either speak to an officer. If it's, traffic related, we do have a traffic sergeant, and we do have a traffic unit that would be best able to answer maybe those questions and to provide some, whatever, steps we deem is appropriate. But ideally, call us at the time. If not, you can always call us later on, but we are able to do our job more efficiently and better when we're called at the time. So, towns by law enforcement officers conducting bylaw enforcement. It looks like by ODSS, is that correct? Is the next one. and the illegal parking.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing issue. Lots of concerns over there. So the idea is that pickup drop off time, some of the rules that are over there are not necessarily being respected. So bylaw has been there, but as have the police. And I think he's just looking to continue to have pressure on both sides, bylaw and the police, to help out with that issue.
Yes, and if there is a particular time that this is happening, obviously it's probably during, when school's getting in, when school's being dismissed. We can assist the Orangeville bylaw officers with this enforcement. There is no problem with us, attending during these times, assisting the bylaw officers. We'd like to see the bylaw officers maybe take the lead in this, in issuing the tickets or whatever. But if there's an issue with, they're being harassed or, threatened verbally or physically or whatever like that, obviously they have a job to do. There's no way they should be, subject to that, just like anyone. So we can work with your bylaw officers, your bylaw department, in conjunction with them in order to see if we can address this problem. I don't know if the school can put something out maybe to the parents of the students there, advising them of the no parking in the areas that have been identified, because maybe public education could go a long way as well. If the school could maybe put something out, I think that would be very beneficial as well. And
just on that note, I think that's a really good idea. I made a note to, and Mayor posts something for us to just consider. I made a note to follow up with our education trustee, so I'll let Ken know that that's ongoing, and I think that's a great suggestion.
And as I said, we can definitely assist the bylaw officers during this time, and educating the people that we speak to that they do have to treat the bylaw officers with respect, and they can't be threatening them or causing any nonsense like that. So, and hopefully that will lead to the bylaw officers being able to do their jobs without necessarily having us there.
May I ask a question then? So I think the feedback has been, and it's two-pronged, and this is how I would actually describe it. Our bylaw department has limited resources. There's only so many folks with different times, so they can't be there all of the time. And our local police force also has resource requirements that doesn't allow them to be there all of the time. So what I tell people is I mention it. I let the inspector know that, hey, these are things that the public would like to be followed up on, and I certainly mention that with our bylaw folks and whatnot. I can't tell the police what to do. I can't tell our bylaw what to do. That's not my job. All I can do is ask and educate and go from there. But I essentially think it is a resource issue, right? You're not going to be there every day. Like we should set expectations, but people wouldn't know when you're going to be there, and they should be mindful of the fact that you could be there and that they should be respecting those rules and regulations as they go.
Exactly. Yes. I think that's very important that that information is out there, that yes, we may not be able to attend every time that either we get called there, or obviously we can't be there, 5 days a week at 2:20 or whenever the school gets out every time. But if, working with our traffic unit, I think they would be maybe the best people to incorporate into this, and then set up some dates for maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks or something like that, and hit different days, maybe 1 week hit it Monday, Tuesday, next week Friday, Thursday or something like that, and then and also educating the public when we're there. So
great. Okay. Do you feel like you got through there, Sergeant Shea? Do you have anything more you wanted to cover off, or?
Let me see if there's anything else. No, I don't think so. Unless there's something else in this email you want me to address.
Board members, any questions from you for Staff Sergeant Shea? No? Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. Motion to receive that report. Mary, Ken, all in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. So item 7 is ride grants. It's on the 7.1 is on page 16. And that's the grant transfer payment agreement. And 7.2 is on page 29. And that is the certificate of insurance overall. Board members, I'll throw this to you. Any comments or questions on these documents? Is there anything you wanted to cover off in these documents? If not, I think it's simply a receive item. The public can read the documents if they so choose. Yeah, very good. Okay, motion to receive, and I think I'll ask for 7.1 and 7.2 if I could. Ian, seconder, or post, all in favor? Yes. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So this brings us on to Operation Lifesaver Program. And Inspector Ward did speak to this in the past, and Staff Sergeant Shea, I'm not sure, are you up on the Lifesaver Program, and is this a fair question to put to you? Do you want to speak to that at all, or would you rather us not?
I can speak to my experience with it. Obviously, I don't know what Inspector Ward has mentioned, but the Lifesaver Program has operated both in the region of Peel and the town of Caledon. And I believe the town of Caledon is still operating the Lifesaver Program. I don't know if the city of Brampton is still, or the region of Peel is still continuing with their program. It is for wandering people. People with dementia who may, wander off and not know where they are. So it is a good program, but you might be prudent to maybe to look into the reasons maybe why Peel didn't continue, if they didn't.
Yeah,
I can't say for sure, but I know they were running it, and I believe that they had stopped. It is definitely another tool that police can use in order to locate someone, which can often be time sensitive.
So what we found, and board members feel free to correct me, we found that the Lifesaver Program is exactly as you described, but unfortunately to get it up and running for our area, it would take some fundraising to be able to do that. As I recall, it was around $10,000 to be able to get it up and running. So the idea was, would a group want to raise funding for that? The board wouldn't necessarily fundraise for a program, the Police Services Board, so that would have to be an outside agency. And in conjunction with that, the way this came up was it was people advocating for autistic folks who potentially would be lost or need some help in that sort of way. And the other part of it was, would the OPP begin to have some training with their officers for dealing with autistic people in particular and how best to approach them, that sort of thing. And so my understanding is there's preliminary discussions within your organization about offering autistic training to officers. And I think that's going to be a great thing as we go forward. And I'm sure that that's just preliminary and certainly not committing the OPP to that at this point. I think there's more to come, but my understanding is that's the path we're on. So I think that sort of summarizes where we are with this. I know that the groups that are watching this program are probably wondering more, and I think my message to them at this time would be is wait, we'll see what the OPP comes forward with in terms of any kind of formal policy regarding autism. And the secondary piece of that is if the Lifesaver Program is to go, I think there's some research to be done in terms of its effectiveness. Is it good or not? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's something that they would have to determine, and they would have to fundraise if they were to get that program up and running. Do you agree with it? Did I do a good summary there, or is that?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay, good.
that's a very good summary of
Okay.
that, yes.
Board members, would anybody else like to speak to this item? No, okay. So can I have a motion to receive item 8, the Operation Lifesaver? Mary and Ian, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay. So this is item 9, and this is the service standards portion. And I think Vice Chair, you would like to speak to this, Ian? Oh, you're just on mute, my friend.
This is just part of our public reporting just as a reminder to the public. We have a policy that sets out deadlines when certain things have to happen in order to prepare for a meeting of the board, and also follow-up items that have to occur after that meeting takes place to execute all of the things that we need to execute, both with respect to the prior meeting and also in anticipation of the next meeting. So it's a bit of a roadmap. So I'm happy to report that with respect to the post items, the post January/February meeting items, we are at 100% compliance with our service standards. And with respect to the pre-March 21st meeting, today's meeting, we also managed to achieve 100% success compliance with our service standards. So good job to our executive assistant that keeps us on track with respect to all of these things.
Very good. Okay, so thank you for that, Vice Chair. So can I have a motion to receive that report, unless anybody would like to speak to it? Speak. Okay, so Lisa and Mary, all in favor? Yes. Okay, so that's item number 9. Number 10 is, this is where we, in public, if there's any monies being this in public, and this is a special remuneration, and the claim is attached in the deck, and it's item number 10, and it speaks to a meeting that Member McSweeney went to, and the remuneration that will be supplied to him. I think that's fairly straightforward. I don't think we need any further information on that. Board members, would you like to discuss this at all? No? Okay. Very good. Motion to move is done by
Mr. Chair, just as a reminder, on the time sheets for the executive assistant, we were going to approve those in public as well.
We are, but got that in the other agenda. What's we have a page number for that? Page 55 in the other one. Is it just underneath? Sorry, guys, I make my notes, and then if we deviate, sometimes it's...
I can introduce it if you'd like.
Sure.
So
Do you have the page number, Ian?
It's enclosed, isn't it? Mary Lou,
That's right. It's on page 55 of the closed, and we
yeah,
didn't. So it's not in the open, and that's what's throwing me off.
Yes, I apologize. This is sort of a last minute addition to this item 10 in our public agenda. It's just the symmetry of publicly disclosing all of our expense and remuneration claim approvals. We just thought it would be helpful to approve not only the special remuneration claim for me, but also this sort of new timesheet approach that we're taking to the executive assistant. So I can introduce it if you'd like.
Makes total sense. I think we should, I know it's page 55 in the closed. I'm not sad that I know that, but if you could describe it, that would be great, since it's
sure. So as part of the ongoing work that we're doing through various board projects, we decided that we would revise our executive assistant's employment contract with the board to include not only her standard remuneration, but also to accommodate certain special projects that that Mary Lou has been assisting the board with, and as well as to take advantage of her expertise in applying for and securing various police grants. She has a real expertise in that area, but we didn't want her to do it for free. obviously, and so we wanted to make sure that we were capturing in her employment arrangements not only her standard remuneration, but also the remuneration that we were proposing to pay her for the special board projects, as well as her grant work. So all of that is done. That contract is about to be signed, and that contract is effective, the revised contract is effective January 1st. So Mary Lou has submitted to the board a timesheet capturing her time for these two kinds of special project work and submitted them to the board. We were going to approve them in closed, but I think we'll do it in open. Those timesheets capture her work from January 1st to March 3rd. And if the board approves them, then we can submit them to the town for payment, along with the claim for my Zone 5 meeting attendance.
Very good. Makes perfect sense. Board members, would anybody like to comment on this before we vote? No? Could I have a mover of this item? Mary, if I could. Mayor Post, second. All in favor? Yes. Okay. Very good. Thank you, everyone. So we move to item 11, which is the Zone 5 update. And this is on page 41 in your agenda. Fairly rigorous discussion here. And I think, Vice Chair, you're going to speak to this item as well. It's got bail reform motion in here, but then we're going to talk about bail reform in a little bit more detail coming up as well. So,
yeah. Also, I don't think. I mean, it looks like there's a lot, but I'll just lightly report on it. So, periodically, the Zone 5, the OAPSB Zone 5 has meetings, and the latest meeting that I attended was on March 7th. And one of the key topics at this meeting was bail reform, which is, as the chair indicated, we'll get to in item number 12. But in addition to that, there were various updates. Dwayne Sprague, on behalf of the ministry, normally gives an update with respect to where things stand with the new Police Services Act legislation. And he did that. It's a bit like Groundhog Day, I guess. And we continue. There continues to be an ongoing challenge, I think, in setting the likely enforce date for this new legislation. I think the current thinking is that it won't be until sometime in the first quarter of 2024. And the primary reason for the delay is that whenever a new piece of legislation like this comes out, the details are in the regulations, and sometimes the legislation will come out and the regulations will be finalized after the fact. I think the preference is to have as many of the operating regulations in place and functioning when the statute goes live. So that's the delay. They're currently sending out consultation drafts of the various regulations that they're proposing go along with the new legislation, and the public is being given an opportunity to consult on those regulations. At the Zone 5 meeting, legal counsel for the Ontario Association of Police Chiefs gave a very interesting presentation on where things stand with respect to the overall consultation process. And as I was telling the board in closed, I took great comfort in what he said in terms of the level of details that were going into this consultation process. So hopefully we'll come out at the end with regulations that are well thought through and that match up appropriately with the various sections of the statute. The only other thing I guess I'd like to, other than bail reform, which as I said we'll get to, like to point out from that zone meeting is that there were elections. The zone executive was up for re-election, as well as the Zone 5 appointee to the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards. So just on the latter, John Thompson had been elected a couple of months ago but I guess these elections are have to be annually renewed. So even though he was elected a couple of months ago, he stood for election again, but he was acclaimed for obvious reasons. There's no sense in additional candidates coming forward. And then all of the executive of Zone 5 were also acclaimed, and I was elected. There were a couple of people running, and I was elected as vice chair. So I'm the new vice chair of Zone 5. So I'm happy to contribute to the Zone 5 initiatives in that way.
It's excellent, Ian. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next Zone 5 meeting is June 6th. And at that, prior to that meeting, I will be distributing, as part of the package to that meeting, will be the minutes from this meeting. So board members will be able to read in detail all of the detailed discussion that went on at the March 7th meeting when those minutes come out.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Each time they send out a list of the membership directory, it's always wrong for Orangeville. So this one has that they haven't got Mayor Post there, but they've still got Andy McIntosh. And in another format somewhere in the package, they've left Ken Crakar out of the list. So I'm wondering if they're two minor points, but I think they're very important.
And I thank you. I can't tell you how often I have put those changes in. Perhaps I will have greater sway now that I'm vice chair.
Good luck.
Poor Ken. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. Great update. So, Mary, you're good? Yeah. Okay. So, motion to receive, if we could. Lisa, Mary, all in favor? Yes. Okay. Very good. This is item 12. Item 12, it's on page 47, and it's a draft motion on bail reform. And Ian, you wanted to talk a little bit about this item?
Yeah, I'll just give you the background. And once as I've mentioned before, this was one of the keynote discussions or presentations made at the Zone 5 meeting. And it was made by a representative of the Waterloo Police Services Board. And the presentation was designed to enlist support from the Zone 5 boards for a bail hearing reform initiative from Waterloo that really calls on the provincial and federal government to collaborate to enact sector-wide reform to Canada's bail system. And you've probably read about this in the news quite often. I think their proposed initiatives include broadening the application of the reverse onus protocol. In other words, you show me why I should. The presumption is against granting bail as opposed to unless you show otherwise, as opposed to the reverse in certain circumstances. And also ensuring that provincial bail policies and directives are properly integrated, particularly with the new legislation, but particularly with respect to repeat offenders, which seems to be one of the big issues. So this is a very important initiative. And I can tell you that at the Zone 5 meeting, there was, I didn't hear any naysayers. I think there was quite strong support for it. And so we crafted this resolution from Zone 5 in order to allow each board to go back to their own boards and get the support in a consistent way. So I think basically what it calls for is and I'll just pitch this to the Orangeville board, for the board to adopt that motion, the wording of which is presented, and that calls for writing a letter to the federal and provincial governments. And we have the contact points from Waterloo, so I thought it was important that if we're going to be writing letters to the provincial and federal governments, that we write them all to the same person, at the same address so that there's a coordinated response that way. And I think the proposal called for boards to write letters to the OAPSB, so the OAPSB has a record of police services board supporting this initiative in connection with the OAPSB's contact of the federal and provincial government supporting the bail reform initiative. And then, of course, we are invited to encourage our municipal councils to also pass similar motions in support of the motion. I understand the debate in municipal council might be slightly different, but I think at this point all we're doing is inviting town council to have that debate, and if they see their way through to supporting it, then to write similar letters to the federal and provincial government, and also for this board to write letters to our local MP and MPPs voicing support in a similar way. So all of that, I know it's a lot, but I think it's a very important initiative, and we can certainly talk about it. I'm happy to talk about it, and I think it's very important that we have this discussion in public, because it's a reform initiative that has been in the public eye through the media reports, and I think is something that public may well have comments on it, as in addition to the comments that we have. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Mayor Post, do you have a question, or Mary, did you have no? Mayor Post, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, Ian, was there any discussion at the Zone 5 meeting about expanding this to other zones as well and sharing that motion with others?
I think the only discussion was that the broadening of that would be through the OAPSB. So I think that's the job of the OAPSB. I mean, I certainly, the adventurer in me says, yeah, that would be great. Let's contact them all. But there's a lot of regional diversity, and there's a lot of, I think other than broadcasting it out there as something that's happening, it would be a bit of a tiger by the tail to take on. So I think that's something the OAPSB will be doing.
If I may, just to make sure, like to summarize this, the Waterloo Regional Police Services Board puts this forward, right? They approve it. They've approved.
That's correct.
Zone 5, it comes to Zone 5. You have a rigorous debate. You've approved it.
Zone 5 has approved. Yes, they have Zone 5 has approved the concept and also approved the process by which the board members of Zone 5 would take it back to their own municipalities and boards.
Got it. Just for fun, as a discussion, does anybody find the language in this aggressive? I mean, and I'm sure that's the point, right? And I certainly wouldn't advocate on the other side, but just out of curiosity, it is aggressive. Is any thoughts on that?
What part of what? I'm not sure what language you're talking about.
I'm referring to the draft motion on bail reform by the Waterloo Police Services Board. And just so they're asking things, and let's be clear, to me, they seem like common sense as you would ask them. And there's certainly things that have created outrage in our community. It's just our current system isn't anywhere close to what they're asking for in the attached, which I'm sure is the point. I don't know. Do you think that this is going to go anywhere? Do you think this aggressive language is going to make a difference? Is this something that we would want to push as a board ourselves? Is this something we want to bring to our town council? I'm not sure. Like it does feel like it's pushing the envelope, right?
Yeah, I mean, people have personal views on this.
That's my point. Thank you.
There may be some polarization of those views within the community, and that's part of the reason why I guess I said that council's discussion of this might be somewhat different than ours. I mean, I take comfort. I take comfort in that all we're asking the federal and provincial government to do is to had the discussion, is to entertain bail reform. You know, we're not prescribing what they should do. We're not, you know, we're simply pointing out that things are not working well the way they are, and that this, you know, some sort of bail reform initiatives have to be taken, and we're asking them to pick it up.
So if I may, I think that's where it's easier, but when you start getting into actual recommendations at this time, I don't know if that's something that I personally would be comfortable with. I think I'd want to hear more about it. These seem like, you know, I'm using language that I feel like is going to get people's ire, but they feel like motherhood statements. You know, and when you read them, you think, oh, of course, we should be doing all of these things. But I like the way you just framed it up, and that is we should be asking our provincial government to look at bail reform and as a whole package. And we would say, hey, on balance, we're not overly pleased with the way things are going, but you know, it's up to you to look into the areas and what that is. You're the experts.
So, Todd, I'm just curious, is it the parenthetical references to broadening the application of the reverse onus protocol? Is it that level of detail that concerns you?
You know, candidly, firearms is a big discussion, and I'm not going to be somebody who would advocate for firearms. I don't own a gun. I've never fired a gun, but I just know that things like that are going to be controversial. So I'm not taking a hard line in the sand against anything that's written in here overall. I'm just wondering on the approach. Again, the way you described it from a 50,000 foot angle, I think that makes a lot of sense. Hey, we're asking you to look into bail reform. We think it's not quite appropriate. It's not at the level that it should be. But the areas that it is, I think I'd feel more comfortable if it was discussed in greater detail and I knew what those details were. Whereas giving specific instances, I don't know that I know that personally. It's not an area of expertise for me. Anybody else?
Question. I'm not sure what you're referring to, because what I'm looking at here is just a request to agree that this is a good thing that they should look at, and maybe there should be a national policy, maybe, or certainly an Ontario one.
So I'm reading on page 48, there's a draft motion on bail reform, and it speaks to a whole bunch of different things that would or should happen.
Could you throw that up, Mary Lou?
Must have a different page.
Page 48 of 124, draft motion on bail reform. I'm reading the actual one from the Waterloo Regional Police Services Board. Please, again, I just want to be clear. Don't misunderstand me. I agree. I think that bail reform is something that we should do. I just don't know that, like, if I was to bring this to council, I feel like we would have a very rigorous discussion about each of these items, and just to pass them. I don't know that that's the right thing that we should be doing. It should be more along the lines of a motherhood statement that says, you know, we think you should look into it.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm just not. Mary Lou, can you put on the screen?
Yep, just putting it up right now. So, you know, as a couple of comments, and again, I think these things are wrong, like not wrong from the way it's written, but I certainly wouldn't support criminal behavior in any sense. I don't know a lot about these things, right? But there is a lot of commentary here about firearms. 1, 2, 3. The first 3 are firearms. I just wonder if we should be as detailed as we go. Then we go into violent behaviors, and again, makes sense. I mean, if you've been a chronic violent behavior person, then certainly there should be some implications for that. My tight sentence on this would be is, I don't know, if I brought this forward to another group, I don't think I would want to be as specific as talking about each instance like this report does. I would more or less want to say, hey, overall, we're concerned and we'd like our provincial government to look into it. But I couldn't defend Like, I don't know if I'd be comfortable signing this because I can't defend the statements. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, perhaps, anyway, I don't want to cut off discussion from other board members. So if anyone else had anything to say. So Todd, I would propose that we not, I mean, the way the motion is currently framed, it looks like we are adopting the Waterloo motion. So I hear you on that. I wonder, yeah, so I wonder if our motion should be, just looking down to in the agenda on recommendation, motion that the board receive the documents and approve support of federal and provincial bail reform initiatives and authorize Chair Taylor and Vice Chair McSweeney to carry out the steps necessary to achieve compliance or to necessary to communicate.
I think what we're doing, if I may, I appreciate you trying to work through it. It's yeah, it's the motion that the board receive the above documents, and I think that's right. And then it's what are we authorizing? What is the board authorizing us to do? And I think it's to state that we would like bail reform investigated further, and we see systemic issues within the system currently. But again, I keep thinking to myself and the public, and would I be able to go through these bullets and defend them? And the answer is I would be flummoxed. I wouldn't know the details well enough to put my name behind these things. I've just become very cautious as we go forward in this representing our town piece about putting my name beside things that I don't fully understand. So I do agree on the premise. I think there's an issue. It's just the details. I'm not sure that we should do that.
Well, let me ask this. Is there any consensus for doing anything at all?
I would be in favor of doing something, yes, and that would be asking the provincial government to investigate and act and come back with a plan that is going to make things more stern or reflective of the crimes that are being occurred. But I wouldn't have the expertise to share anything about those crimes or what those what the penalties should be.
Right, but we're not. I mean, we're not. I think we're advocating support for the concept of bail reform review.
That's correct. We're advocating, but the tactics and initiatives that are underneath of it, I don't know that we can do that.
Okay, and we won't do that. Then I'm just trying to figure out what wording we're willing to pass, if any, in connection with this. And everything above the line recommendation is simply stuff that we're receiving.
Yeah.
So the motion that we're thinking about is the motion that the board receive the documents. That's fine, and approve support for federal and provincial bail reform review. Maybe that's full stop.
Yeah, for sure. At least Mayor Post is going to try something here.
If you can give me a little bit of leniency here to try and craft a motion, I would say that the board receive the above documents and direct Chair Taylor and Vice Chair McSweeney to write a letter from the Orangeville Police Services Board to the provincial government to advocate for bail reform.
That's fine.
I think so too. Thank you, Mayor Post.
Mary Lou, you got that okay?
I was going to add in to draft a letter in principle. Put the word in principle.
Well, sorry.
In principle to what?
In principle to the bail reform. But yours is fine. Yours is fine, Lisa. You spoke before.
Yeah, I
Perfect.
don't know what the principal means. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Yeah, so we're just advocating a review.
Okay, I think that's great. I feel funny doing this, but Sergeant Shea, do you want to speak to this matter at all? Like, I don't want to put you on the spot, certainly decline if you don't, but did you
Yeah,
have thoughts overall?
I think at this time, I'll just leave it with the elected officials and my Commissioner Curry can deal with the OPP. View on
Understood.
this.
I'm trying to be polite, make sure I'm not, and if you wanted to, great, and if you didn't, I completely understand.
Thank you for the offer, but I decline. Yes.
And then, and so, okay, and then, so, we'll write that letter, but there's also some other steps. So what about contacting MPs and MPPs and writing to the OAPSB and advocating that the municipal council also consider it? I guess we can do all of those things as well.
So I think we can do all of those things, and the letter would be maybe slightly changed, but even it could be CC'd to all those people. I do think like this is something that I think we should be linking in with our council on and allowing them to, the board speaks for the board, and I think where we've arrived at makes perfect sense. The council may want to do something on their own too, or not. But I think we should make them aware of it. So it would be a letter. I can work with you on that, Ian. But it'd be a letter as well.
I just want to make sure we had a proper authorization. So maybe as a next sentence, Mary Lou, that the chair and vice chair are also authorized to communicate with municipal council, MPs, and the above people like local MP, local MPP, and the OAPSB in support of that initiative. And then Todd will figure out what we write.
Mayor Post would like to speak.
The other addition that you could just put into the motion that I already said was that in a copy of the letter additionally be circulated to the OAPSB, the MPP and the MP, and to local council. And then that will get it at least on the agenda. And at the time of writing the letter, you can include a little blurb within the letter that you're writing asking for support from the council.
Mayor Post, how do you feel about county council? Is that something we would include as well, or is that not relevant?
No, it can definitely go to county council. I think that makes sense. It's within the same zone and makes sense.
That's sort of an elegant way of dealing with it. So we'll just copy the OAPSB, MP, MPP.
Yeah.
And
in the spirit of the debate, I feel like I need to ask this in public session. What do you think of what I'm saying? Do you feel comfortable with that? Have I overreacted or overstepped? Or do you think, based on your position?
No, I think you've made some good points. And I think that we have to kind of stick within the wheelhouse of what our expertise is. And that's not where our expertise is. But I do believe that we should be advocating for bail reform. And I think we've approached it the right way. I think this will give town council an opportunity to see what the Orangeville Police Services Board has done, what the other, we can send them a copy of the Waterloo one when we bring it up for discussion at our council as well. And they can see the two extremes of both and see where they want to land. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. Yeah. But I think you're right on.
Okay, great.
And I think to be fair, I think that Waterloo's experience here is that the Waterloo Police Service and the Waterloo Police Services Board have been at this for a while. And I think that motion is a result of their joint discussions on the way to proceed. And obviously we haven't had those joint discussions with our police service. So
very good.
It's fair comment, Todd.
Okay, perfect. So I think we're there. We've got our motion. So I guess it's the motion and then action to move forward. Like, Mary Lou, do you have that? Should we read it out one last time before we go, or?
Oh, Mary Lou, you're on mute.
Okay.
So I think it's the letter writing, and then the letter will be CC'd, the OAPSB, MP, MPP, and the town council, and then that will get it communicated to wherever we need it.
Good, everyone?
And I guess we could also CC the Zone 5.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And
So-
Waterloo too. I think they want to keep track of who's supporting them, so we could CC Waterloo.
So given that I caused us all to lose 15 minutes of our lives, I'll make the motion. Sorry about that, everybody. And Mayor Post has seconded. All in favor? Yes. Okay, thank you for indulging me. So that brings us to item 13, which is the OAPSB Spring Conference, May 30th, 2023. It's on page 65 of the agenda. And I think what we're talking about here is two things. Is one, will we have a member of this board attend that conference? And two, who will it be? My hope is that we would send someone. And you know, if I could speak out of turn, I think, Rose, you said you might be interested in going. Good. Is anybody else want to put their name forward? This conference? No? Okay. Can we have a motion to authorize Mary Rose to attend this conference on behalf of the board, and we will have our executive assistant help Mary Rose with the registration and whatnot of this conference. Very good. Sorry, Ian and Ken, thank you. All in favor? Yes, okay, very good. Item 14 is again back to financials. So we spent money and we need to, whenever we're spending money, to do so in a public forum. And so this is confirmation that the membership to the OAPSB was paid for 2023, and that amount was $1,800. Any comments, board members, on this expense? Okay, can I have a motion to receive that item? Ian, Mayor Post, all in favor? It's okay, great. And then this item 15 is the Action Registrar update. So it's the PSB Action Registrar. It's on page 68. Just want to go to it myself. Would anyone like to speak to this item? Anything on here you want to talk to? These are the items that are ongoing. Who's leading it? What's the target date to finish? And the completion dates. If there's no
Mr. Chair,
comments, that's fine.
Just to comment on that. So this is just for the public consumption. Our action register is a document that we review in closed, and then to the extent that it requires redaction or modification for public disclosure, if there are any confidential projects that we would need to redact, then that redacted version, we decided that we would disclose that to the public in public. I don't think, Mary Lou, I don't think there's anything. I think the two versions are the same at this point. I think there's nothing redacted from closed, but in the future, there may be, depending upon whether we've got a project that involves sensitive information.
Okay, very good. And motion to receive that report. Mary, Ken, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay, so this leads us to item 16, and item 16 is a report that's being put together. Basically, it's on the Section 10 objectives, and essentially we want to have consistency among Section 10 and Section 31 boards moving forward. Member McSweeney, I know this is a very large project. We've been through this. Would we just simply do a 2-sentence summary? Is that fair for this, or did you want to engage the board? So for the public, the board has been engaged privately. There's members that are feeding into this, and there will be sort of a presentation coming up to council as well. So lots of transparency around what is going on. But I wonder, you want to just do a 2 or a 3, or?
I'll do a 2 or 3 sentence summary. This is a governance project that involves the recording and preservation of all of our governance documents, bylaws, policies, and the like, including an overview document that will allow us to better govern ourselves as a board, and also hand off those governance documents to future boards to enable them to continue to govern in a consistent way.
Very good. Can I have actually, board members, sorry, does anybody else want to speak to this? No? Yeah, I think it's excellent too. I look forward to the presentation to council and the next iteration that's going to come out. Can I have a motion to receive this item? Mary, Ken, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. Thank you, everyone. So we will move on to item 17, which is the PSB website review. This is you again, Ian. You're going to speak to this item a little bit.
Yeah, we talked about this in closed just for public consumption and to let the public know our website is something that we've been working on. For those that have visited the website, you will have seen that we have added some things and continue to improve it. I think as an ongoing project, we've revised our policies dealing with public disclosure to allow the board to make decisions to broaden the scope of our public disclosure with respect to all sorts of things that we do that aren't necessarily confidential, our bylaws, our policies, the governance structure that I spoke to a second ago. So in the coming months, you will see that as we make the decisions with respect to broadening what we disclose publicly, those public documents will appear on our website. And this is an initiative that we are not doing alone. We have reached out to a number of the other police services boards in the area, and it's something that's universally recognized as being a valuable initiative to increase the level of public disclosure by police services boards to their communities.
Board members, would you like to speak to the website at all? I mean, I know it's a work in progress. Any thoughts or comments on that? No? Okay. So a motion to receive this report, we could. Item 17, Mayor Post. Ken, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay. So item 18, this is about school bus safety, and there is a police services board in East Ferris who has uncovered this. And we're worried about our area and want to make sure that we're acting in an appropriate way. And Ken, you have taken the lead on this. Can I hand this over to you to speak to?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As discussed at our last meeting, you guys tasked me to go take a look into it to see if it was brought forward to Dufferin County Council, which it was. During my discussion, I discovered that it was brought before Dufferin County Council. And then when Dufferin County Council did it, legislation prevented this from happening. However, I've been advised that it can now be enforced. The legislation has since changed. So my recommendation in my discovery is that we recognize as a board that community safety is paramount, and we request that town council and the town of Orangeville to work with the region of Peel in bringing this school bus safety stop arm program to our community. In a nutshell, it's the town of Orangeville and the region of Peel that can bring this and make this happen within our community.
So in my mind, I think where we're at is the next steps will be is that we would bring this to town council, and we would work with the region of Peel and try and have something implemented. Is this something, and just so I grasp the next follow-ups, is that did we decide, is this going to be the police services board coming to council to talk about this, or is this going to be an initiative that would be brought forward by Mayor Post and the deputy mayor, as representatives of this board? Like how should we do this item?
I would say you as your council representatives bring it forward because the documentation is from the Dufferin County that I provided.
Okay. Mayor Post, are you okay with that? What would you like?
Perhaps if a communication or correspondence could be sent into the town of Orangeville with the learnings that Ken found in his research and as he discovered, just to give a basis point that we can then speak to at council, and we can go from there. I think that would probably be the best way to do it. So Ken, if perhaps you could send some of that correspondence, or maybe it can come from Mary Lou, right from our agenda, to what we discovered in that and what the recommendation would be on how the town moves forward, just to really incorporate that piece about the region appeal, because we'll have to do some research on how that relationship can work and how we can best do it.
I will send you everything that I have. I'll send it to you, Mary Lou.
Yep. So sorry, just to connect the dots on that. So if we send it to Mary Lou, are we asking Mary Lou to write a letter, or are you going to write a letter? Like essentially this would go to the CAO, right? Or the CAO to.
I think that the update letter that Ken provided that's part of our agenda package could probably go to the clerk's department, and then it can be included as correspondence, and we can speak to it then whenever it's able to come to council at that point.
Perfect. And are you okay with that?
Yep. This is public. This is in the public domain, and the documents that I have from Dufferin County is public information too. Very
good. Okay. So I guess the next steps with that is the motion essentially would read is executive assistant to share information with the town of Orangeville, and Mayor Post and Deputy Mayor Taylor to lead the discussion at council when it.
Question.
Okay. Yes.
Would you attach, it's fairly lengthy if you send this to council, but the amount of work that was done by the county and by other areas, it's quite phenomenal. I mean, yeah, so I'm just saying there's an awful lot here that's already done, and maybe the council should have a whole package and just know that you're just adding to that.
I think that's a great idea. Okay. Yeah. Okay, board members, any other comments? Do you agree, Ken?
Just that I recall, I was trying to find the note that I made, but I can't. I recall that Ken's specific recommendation was that town council work with, and was it Peel, Ken?
The region of Peel.
The region of Peel, yeah. So I think just to make sure that that's really what we're proposing, is that the two bodies collaborate in order to decide. I guess Orangeville is kind of discussing with Peel in order for Orangeville to decide what it wants to do.
Agreed, and that's essentially what the county said, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a joint decision between Peel and Orangeville. It's Orangeville's decision, but they need to inform themselves through discussions with Peel.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we've got our motion out. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mayor Post, Mayor Rose, all in favor? Yes. Okay, so this item, next item is item 19, and it's a draft of the OPP Detachment Board Member Code of Conduct and Conflict of Interest. And I know this is something that's being worked on. I see Lisa Darling was involved with yourself, Vice Chair. Did you want to speak to this item from a top line standpoint? And this is
I'm happy to.
Page 77 of the documentation.
Yeah. So the board has received, and I think we've received this a couple of times. The board has received the comments that I submitted to the OAPSB on behalf of the board in connection with the draft regulations that were produced for consultation purposes, which included a code of conduct regulation and a conflict of interest regulation to support the new police services legislation. So those comments, which were fairly extensive, have been sent into the OAPSB and in turn into the government. And as I reported before, there have been a number of entities that have made submissions in connection with these and other draft regulations. So at some point we will receive. I don't know when the consultation ends, but at some point we will receive these regulations in final form prior to the actual enforced date of the new legislation, which is not expected to be much before first quarter of 2024.
Okay, very good. Any comments, board members? No? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to receive that report? Ken and Mayor Post, all in favor? Yes, thank you, everyone. Okay, So we are on to item 20, which is the false alarm reporting. And the false alarm reporting is on page 87. The list is thankfully truncated from where it has been. So maybe maybe the campaign we've been trying to run here to get these amounts down are working. And I see, won't call anybody out, but we've had regular offenders on here, and I don't see some of those regular offenders on this list. So I think progress is being made. Board members, any comments on these?
The question.
Yes, please.
And the regular offenders are not there, but we have new offenders in great number here. I'm wondering what is said to them that would make them comply or to change their alarm system so that we're not answering these. I mean, I'm talking about one of these, it's on several pages for the same company.
Yeah. So again, we did this because calls for service are going out with our police department, and we don't want our police department going to false alarm calls. We want you looking after meaty things. And my understanding, please everyone correct me if I'm wrong, but this goes to the clerk's department, who then follows up with the businesses and, asks them to kind of fix their problems because of the issues that they're causing for us. So that's where it's at. And at some point there will be monetary issues for them if they continue. Did you want to offer anything further to that?
I would just say at some point there would have to be a bylaw or something that puts some teeth in that threat.
Well, I think we do. Like, is that not right?
Yes, that's
Mary Lou?
correct.
It's 250.
The clerk's office, they are in turn speaking to bylaw. It might be nice to get some feedback as to exactly what bylaw are doing. Are they going out and educating the business owners in response to member Rose's question? I haven't heard any feedback on what exactly bylaw is doing with the information being provided by the OPP.
I will make a note, everyone, and I will just close that loop with bylaw, and I will share that out and just see what the process is post and make sure that we're doing it. Again, this list when we got it initially was 3 pages long, so clearly progress is being made, but I'll just find out what that is. Just making a note for myself here. Okay. So I think the motion here is we're going to receive, but the chair will follow up with bylaw and report back to the group, and either I'll do that through email or we'll save it for future meeting. Okay. Can I have a motion to receive that? Mary, thank you. Seconder. Ian, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay. So this brings us to item 21 and kind of some good news, some excellent work being done here. And we are the happy recipients of a new grant. It's a community and safety policing grant, and payment has been received of $37,436. Would anyone, Mary Lou, do you want to say anything to this item, or yeah? Sure.
Yes, just that the Community and Safety Policing Grant is funding the OPP officer dedicated to the Mobile Crisis Response Team. And all feedback that I'm hearing is the program is going very well. And now an OPP officer can attend on scene with a crisis nurse from the hospital and provide that on-scene interaction and provide the appropriate supports on scene, which is diverting a lot of cases that were probably not best suited to go to the ER department and using up more resources. We're getting better outcomes, and it's much better for the persons who are in crises.
Good. Staff Sergeant Shea, did you want to comment on that matter? Again, you don't have to. I'm just...
I'll just comment that it has been very beneficial to have our MCERT officer, in that we are freeing up other officers in order to respond to other calls, in that when we do take someone to the hospital, we are getting a higher percentage of them being informed, which means it is working then, because we don't
That's
want to
great.
take people that, don't need to go to the hospital. That's our last resort, but it is working very well, in my opinion.
That's great. Glad to hear that. Okay, so board members, would anybody like to speak to this item? Nope, seeing none, can I have a motion to receive this? Mayor Post, Mary, all in favor? Yes, thank you, everyone. So item 22 is an exciting one. So I'd like to congratulate Member Mary Rose for being with us for another 2 years. So congratulations to you. You've been nominated by the province to stay with us. So we're glad that that's the case. Yeah. Board members, any comments on this other than cat calls or boos? No, all in jest, obviously. But okay, so motion to receive this report. Ken, thank you. Ian, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. So on page 95, this is item 23. It's approval of the public session meeting minutes. And we've got January 17th, February 2nd, and February 23rd. Can I have a motion to receive each of these documents all at once? Able to do that? Mary? Mayor Post, all in favor? Yes, okay, very good. Item 24, I've got my friendly friend Mona here with me, who looks after IT for us. And so my understanding, Mona, is that we will be in town hall moving forward with police services board meetings, and you'll be joining us too? Yes. You're excited about that. And the dates are, we will be here May, June, September, and November at this point. There will be special meetings as well, but they'll be done as needed, but those are the firm dates at this point. And so the closed session will start at 4, run till 5 o'clock, and then the open session will be 5 o'clock onwards. And we'll be doing that at Town Hall on camera and available for the public to attend. So if you're watching this and you wanted to be here live, you're certainly welcome to do so. Comments or questions, board members? No. Motion to receive. Mayor Post and Ian, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay, very good. So this one is extremely interesting. So this is all about the Dufferin OPP action plan. And what we included in the document was the strategic plan from 2020 to 2022. And very soon, your excellent organization is going to put out the new strategic plan. And as board members and as public, we do not get input into the OPP strategic plan. That's driven by your organization. However, what we do get to input to is the Dufferin action plan. And again, essentially, strategies are set by the OPP in terms of how they're going to conduct their business. But if you're talking about initiatives and potentially even tactics, we as the public and as the board can have input, into what those things should be. So I think the idea here is we will have, I think we're going to have another special meeting and do that in conjunction with Terry Ward on what those initiatives potentially could be. And the board will meet and we'll go about it in that way. So board members, did I misrepresent? Do you think I've captured that right? Any further thoughts? So seeing none, I guess the feedback is, and maybe just to make sure this isn't lost, when are we going to do that? Do we need to schedule time, or how are we going to approach?
We'd probably want to know Terry's schedule.
Yeah, are we going to do it in conjunction with him, or would we do it on our own and then come to him, or are we just going to have a board discussion with him?
I think we need to meet by ourselves, first of all, so
Yeah.
that we come to some kind of consensus, and then we have something to offer.
Thoughts from other board members on how you'd like to approach? No one? So I think the feedback should be that looks like Ian's frozen. Ian, are you still with us? No, he's gone. Okay, so I think what we should do is maybe this should go out as well to the board, Mary Lou, as a hey, when can we meet? If we could put together some sort of survey and see. I think initially, like, 60 to 90 minutes with the board, and then we get our ducks in a row and understand where we want to go, and then we'll book meetings with Inspector Ward and his team to have a more robust discussion. I'd hate to just show up and not, we're hodgepodge and we're wasting his time. We don't want to do that. I think if we stayed away from Mondays, and Thursdays, you've got Thursdays. Okay. Yeah. So if we did say a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and candidly, I can be flexible. So the rest of the group, Mary or Ken, any thoughts on that? Okay. Okay. Very good. So, so I think we've got a motion there, right? And the motion is that our executive assistant is going to put out some dates, and we'll get a meeting in the calendars. Good? Good. Motion. So can somebody make that motion then? Okay, Mayor Post. Ken, thank you. All in favor? Yes. Okay, so that's item 25. Item 26. So this is the joint meeting of the Dufferin County Section 10 Police Services Board. The minutes that are here. I think that the whole piece here is, I made a note here about updating with the new members post the October election, so we'll need to do that. And outside of that, there isn't a new date for the next Dufferin County Section 10 meeting, as far as I know. Do we have anything in the calendar? So I wonder, like, that to me probably got lost as we were all transitioning, right, to new roles. So I think we need to get that in. So I can follow up with the county. Are you looking at me like you're concerned? Am I telling you?
I think there is a date suggested and that Mulmer will be the host.
Mulmer's doing it?
I can't remember.
Okay, I'll ask the question and we can make the determination after that. But what we should do as a board too is have things that we want to have discussed at this meeting. So when they ask for input, and one of them for sure is, I think we really need to push this idea of the what is the makeup of the boards moving forward, right? So your boss has 6 or 7 of these that he has to go to on a regular basis, and I know that he wants to have a condensed version going forward, and it only makes sense. So it would be great if we had that, and if there was other items as well that we wanted to cover off, I think we should do that. And probably the Section 10 board and how we conduct ourselves is probably something that would be on the agenda as well. June 16th, okay. And Mulmer? Okay. Very good. Okay, so I don't know if we want to have a call for that. Like, it's still pretty early, but it's something all of us should have on our plates and our minds to see what that's all about. Did I cover that off? So, okay. So that's item 26, and now, so motion to receive that, if I could. Sorry, Mayor Post, all in favor? Yes. So we have lost Member McSweeney, but I think we're almost through this, so we'll continue on without him, if that's all right with everybody. We still have quorum. So question period, item 27. Is there anybody on the line, Mona, that would, no one on the line? Okay. Anyone in the audience? Mr. Ugolini, did you want to ask some questions? Yeah. I don't know. Let's see what you've got.
Council, turn on the mic.
Yeah, it won't go over the.
It won't go over YouTube.
Well, first I'd like to say a lot of the stuff is way over my head. But it's been interesting. My question would be to Sergeant Shea. I have noticed a lot. I've done some of my own surveys here in town, that a lot of people are running stop signs. A lot of people. Some cases, 90% of the people that are approaching these stop signs are running them. Now, and that's all over town. I would say right now at Jay and Hanson, which is nothing right now because of the road closure there, but it's almost 100%. Some people are maybe slowing down to 20 kilometers an hour, if that. I'm just wondering, when is something going to be done about all these stop sign violations?
Well, when we are made aware of a certain area or location, we can dedicate our resources then to that area. If we know the time and the days that this is happening, we can definitely do that.
I have the times at home and the number of vehicles that didn't stop. In some cases, it would have been more, but at a four-way stop, some people are turning left and the people going straight through are having to stop to wait. Other than that, it would have been a lot more. One intersection, Parkview and Lawrence.
Man.
95% of the people did not stop, and that's all the time. Up at Jay Crescent and Rolling Hills, I would say about 75% of the people don't stop. Now, what do you consider a stop? Coming to a complete stop where the car is not rolling at all, or they just roll through and that's okay?
Well, the law says that you do have to come to a complete stop. So if they do not come to a complete stop, they can be given a ticket then, failing to stop at a stop sign.
Can I ask you how much a ticket is for?
I can't recall offhand.
But that and speeding, we had a black box put up on the street last year, and I already talked to Mayor Post about this, and it was really put up at a bad time. Schools were closed, people were on vacation, and probably half the speeders that are on the street every day were gone. And it's constant. It's not just the street I live on, but I live on such a short street and a dangerous street. It's a bend and down a slope, a hill. And I don't know, I don't think we because of the time it was put in place, it wasn't the right time for it, because you probably never got half the speeders. I don't know how many cars were involved in the black box thing, but 13% are over 45. Now, I don't know whether it's 1% or 13% or 50%. What does it matter? They're still speeding. And to my knowledge, to this day, we have not had anybody on the street where the speeding is done. I live in basically the middle of each end, Lawrence and Town Line. And that's the fastest spot on the whole street because it's the center. And I'm just wondering, when can we get some policing?
So we did, just as context, you probably already know, but I'll share anyway. So it's Cedar Drive, and we did have the black cat out, and the documentation came back the way Mr. Ugolini is describing it. So it was, there wasn't a lot of speeders. There was speeding, but it wasn't, well, I don't know, aggressive. It wasn't wild, but there was speeding, you know. So if the speed limit's 40, there were certainly people going over that amount.
Believe it or not, in the summertime, not summertime, when school's on, even the school buses. We also have 2 school bus stops on the street. People have gone around the flashing lights to stop on road. I've seen this.
So that is something that we can readdress at a later time. We can put up the black cat again on your street. If there's a particular time you feel that it would be better, you can provide us that information. And we have no problem going back and putting that Black Cat up again. Usually they're up for a week to 10 days, depending on how long the battery will last.
15 days, but only ran for 4. I said ran out of power.
Yes, you know, depending on the weather and the battery sometimes, but we can always revisit that.
It was the middle of July.
Mhm.
It been any warmer. It's not like it was in January.
I'm not the engineer, sir. I don't know why it only lasted 4 days, but maybe it wasn't charged fully. I don't know. But you know, as I said, that is something that we can look at again.
Another thing is accessibility. People parking accessibility areas. There's a lot of that going on. So like 2 feet in accessibility, I see it just about every day. Because I have a permit. I see it more than most people. It involves me. There's a lot of that going on.
If I may, Mr. Ugolini, so there was a presentation to council by another individual last night, and the individual was describing situations where they're trying to get into their parking spots and someone else is there. And there was reference to that the OPP doesn't fine the individual if they're parking in other words, they're able-bodied and they're parking in a spot where they shouldn't be parking. And the individual last night was quite upset and concerned about that, and felt candidly that the OPP they could do a better job. I think is a good summary. I don't know, Mayor Post, did you? Yeah.
So we can respond to a complaint about someone parking in an accessible parking spot without the permit. So that is a bylaw with the town of. It's a bylaw with the town of Orangeville. It's a bylaw ticket, if I'm not mistaken, right? So bylaw officers or the OPP can lay a bylaw ticket on someone who does that. And you know, we can't be everywhere at every time. And if that happens, I would encourage someone to call us and we can investigate. And if we feel a ticket is warranted for the offense, then the officer can do that. You know, sometimes it's public education as well. So, and I can't speak to every officer in Dufferin OPP what they are going to decide to do. But at the very least, we can always have a discussion, and if need be, give out a ticket.
Well, I have seen a discussion period where I was actually sitting there and went over to the OPP officer, and he finally came over and just asked him to move, and that was it. Ticket. I saw it with my own eyes. But I guess there's discretion. Now, another thing I'd like to bring up, no parking fire route. Walmart, it's just wall-to-wall cars against the sidewalk. And there's nothing ever done.
If I may, just on it, I think the piece is you need to call, and I think you've said you've called, right? So you call the OPP. No, but you've called on other issues, right? And what is I think you're saying you're not getting action. Is that fair when you phone and you report these items?
Well, you know, like talking about accessibility, well, even this no parking fire route, by the time the call is made and somebody responds, talking maybe 15, 20 minutes, and it's like, sayonara, they're gone. Accessibility as well. I know you guys can't be everywhere, and I know you guys are really short-handed too. I don't know what the answer is.
And I understand your frustration, because that is frustrating to me too when I see it. Right, you have people that need that accessible parking, and able people parking in those, right? And you know, we will enforce that law when we can. Sometimes we're busy, as you said yourself, that, you know, we can't be everywhere, and, you know, our resources are sometimes stretched. Whereas, you know, we may not be able to respond right away. But the more that we get those calls that there's people parking in the fire route or whatever, we can respond more, and then
So I don't, if I may, I don't know that we're going to accomplish anything on an issue by issue basis, and all due respect, Rick. I think what the piece is the gentleman's calling. His feedback is he's not seeing action. So what would he do if he's feeling, with the coaching we're giving, all of us, the public leaders and the OPP is saying, continue to call. We want you to continue to call. If we're not feeling like we're getting action when we call, what would an individual do? Is there another step to do? Like, would you write a letter to the superintendent? What would you, because I think that's the crux, right? Is this
Right.
gentleman's feeling like he's not seeing action on numerous infractions throughout town.
well, what I can do for you is I can put something out to our office to remind the officers that, you know, this is an ongoing issue, that when they have time, can they please, you know, patrol the, you know, the mall areas and stuff like that from time to time, and, you know, lay the infraction if they deemed fit. And as well as bylaw, there's town has bylaw officers which can also issue these tickets. So it's just not the OPP. So maybe bylaw can do some patrols from once in a while and give that ticket to someone parking in that fire route who ran into Walmart for, you know, 10 minutes or whatever. You know, you write the ticket, put it on the windshield, and
Yeah.
you know.
So bylaw as feedback for that. So bylaw has hotspots, they call them, and there's a list of hotspots that they do look after. So I don't know, in my head, I don't know if Walmart is on there, but I do know some streets that are on there as hotspots, and I can't think of what the other examples are, but you know, there's a list of 10 or 15 that they call all these high priority things.
Show you what I did. This is just something I did.
Sure.
Bad windshields.
I would caution you about doing that.
And just because he could find himself, yeah.
Well,
That's provocative, right?
Right? You leave something like that, you know, someone sees you or whatever, they may think you're doing something with the car, right? I don't want you to get into argument with someone about, hey, I'm just letting you know this or whatever. You know, it's better just to kind of don't get involved. Give us a call. If you got a plate number, we can always follow up that way if we can't get there right away. You know, this is the plate, this is the make and model of the car that was parked there. We can always phone up the registered owner and advise them, hey, listen, your car was observed parking here, you know, can you please, you know, refrain from that, or whoever was driving that vehicle at that time, can you advise them that, but we have to make sure that, you know, they don't have a permit, right?
It's see, you know, what's happening. See the reaction. Tough luck. Gotta be respectful. It's not happening. Yeah. That's basically it. See a lot of things going on. Another thing, there was another 2 games.
I'm not sure of that, but I know there's been.
And it's really an Ontario-wide thing, right? It's not necessarily an Orangeville thing.
It's 3 here.
Yeah.
Setting up a sting operation.
Well, I
police
can't,
wouldn't be able to comment
really
on that.
get into that, sir, but it is being looked into, obviously, because it is a province-wide issue. It's not just an Orangeville issue. Brampton is very big in vehicle thefts, yes.
Yeah.
So it is being looked at a much higher level than my rank, and it's being looked at provincially. So.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ugolini. Don't have any. I would like to say, though, the very simplistic response to that, and this is not necessarily helpful, but I still think that it's a good message to send, and that is people need to lock their doors. You know, and theft has been an issue in our town for a long time, and typically it's because you haven't locked your door. So I would encourage people to continue to do that.
One more question. Is it strictly Dodge Ram? They have the program.
People can't hear you, Mr. Ugolini. You need to.
Why is it just Dodge Rams? Do these thieves have a program just for that particular product?
I don't know how he could answer that. Like it would.
Yeah,
I guess that's part of the investigation, right?
It's you know, those vehicles are expensive, and they go after expensive vehicles, I guess. A pickup truck is not cheap. I don't know why they target a particular vehicle. They may do it for a certain time and then switch to a different vehicle.
Okay, I'm just curious. That's all. Like that's all you see stolen is Dodge Rams, and
yeah,
you know, the Fast and the Furious, right?
Hopefully, you don't have a Dodge Ram.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ugolini. Appreciate that. Okay, so that is the end of question period, and thank you very much, Sir Shea. Appreciate that. There's no presentation or delegations. Correspondence. We do have an attached email from with an announcement about a change in our new Inspector General of Policing. So that's Ryan Teschner. So congratulations to him. Outside of that, I don't think there's anything else here. So can I have a motion to receive the correspondence? Mayor Post, Mary Rose, all in favor? Yes, very good. No reports. Is there any items of new business? Nope, seeing none. A motion to adjourn our open session. Ken and Mary Rose, thank you very much. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, so we are adjourned from the open session at 6:40, and board members, we do need to go back into closed and just finish off a few items. Are we going to stay, we're going to go back into the closed link? Okay, so board members, you'll go back into the closed link, and why don't we just take 3 minutes here, and when we say 6:45, we'll be back into the closed session. Okay, thank you, everyone.